Hawaiian Islands, the Orient, contact time for every 126.25.
And Chalk 6 is taking fire. Okay, divert south of the river. Divert. I see you come to the red guys. I just called them. You said damn well.
Since the dawn of the first age, by the elders it was foretold, a mighty cure that would rise when needed most. Their words would inspire enlightenment among the common. As it was prophesied, it has come to pass. Everybody has a podcast.
So guys, I'm super excited about our next guest. Beyond just Amanda Bynes and fart jokes, I really do want to take this podcast and have like some really neat conversations with neat people, different walks of life, and maybe some wives, who knows. With that being said, we're super, super excited about our next guest. We have from Texas Ghost and Spirit Intervention, we have Sarah and Felicia. How are you ladies?
Doing great.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be a really exciting conversation.
Thanks for having us. We're so excited to be here.
So Texas Ghost and Spirit Interventions, based out of Austin, Texas. And I guess the way you guys described it was you're not technically like you would see on the show Ghost Hunters, right? You guys you're not so much interested in the scientific evidence as much as just resolving the problem or kind of what's going on. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, we were paranormal investigators for quite some time, and we still love that. It's still very cool to work with all that cool stuff and get evidence like that. But we realized that people really do need help, and we'd go into a case and people would call us for help as a paranormal investigator. We go there, get evidence, and say, okay, here's your evidence. Yes, you're haunted. See ya.
Oh, okay.
Stop by. We realized really quickly that we're just kind of leaving them where they're at. We're not helping them. So we decided to branch off and do this. And it's kind of an intervention. We go in there and we like to say we're helping the living and the dead.
Would you guys typically get referred from like an investigation team, or would you typically refer an investigation team? How would that typically play out?
Well, it's kind of both, actually. I mean, we get cases through our own website as well as from ghost hunters and paranormal investigators.
Gotcha. So I guess we'll kind of start at the beginning here. And once again, please excuse our questions. They might seem ignorant. Well, they are. You are both sensitive. So can you explain what is a sensitive? When did you first realize that you were a sensitive? How does that work?
A sensitive is somebody that has abilities that, typically you're born with it and it runs in your family. You may not know it does, but it does. But, you could talk or could hear and speak to spirits, see spirits, just other abilities that not everybody in this world has. Or if they do, they're just not in touch with it, and you are. As far as me, I realized that I was sensitive when I was probably around 12. And, that's when I realized, something is different. And, after that, as I grew older, you tend to, your sensitivities tend to heighten just a little bit as you grow. They get more because you're involved in society and you're around other people, meeting new people and new experiences. And when I got involved in the paranormal field, it just went nuts. And I specifically can pick up on living energy and spirit energy. So I can read people pretty well and pick up on them and feel their energy. I can tell between spirit and living energy. If I walk into a room, I can tell, I think the energy that's in here is really human, living energy. It's not really spirit. And I'm also very empathic. So I can feel emotions that of other people. So if somebody's nervous or, anxious or depressed or anything like that, I can actually pick up on that stuff.
Wow.
And it can be overwhelming at times, and you just learn throughout the years how to control it.
And as for me, I work as the medium clairvoyant, and I've been seeing, hearing, and communicating with spirits as long as I can remember.
Is that scary at first? Like you mentioned, you guys mentioned 12 years old earlier.
Well, she was 12. I mean, for me, I didn't realize other people didn't see them until I was probably about 7.
Oh, wow. That actually sounds scarier than it probably really is.
Well, growing up, seeing spirits, you don't know that there's something different about it until somebody points it out to you.
Gotcha.
And as a kid, I never saw anything negative or scary, but at night, for some reason, I would get absolutely terrified.
I read on your Facebook that you work with children sometimes, so is it common to children will see negative things? Does that happen?
Yes, a lot of the cases we have that involve children, the spirits sometimes are negative. So my goal is to go in and help that child, give them tools that they can use that work with any belief or religious beliefs. So they have some sort of, I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for is. So they have something to hold on to that they feel like they're in control of.
Sure.
Because the worst thing to tell a child is their imagination. And growing up, that's what I was told. And it's very hurtful. It's very confusing. And I don't want any children to ever feel that way. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. Wow.
Well, and based on both of your experience, how does religion play into with your clients, and also kind of your personal perspective? And I assume you guys have a pretty unique thought on probably the afterlife. If you could share that with us.
Well, I really think that what we do, we work with any type of religion,
Sure.
and we work based off of what our client's religion is, if they have one. There's people out there that don't have a religion, but they are being haunted, or they have an attachment. But, we really try to work with everybody. And we have lots of tools, and we always leave a client's house with tools for them to make sure that they have what they need. After we leave, they know what to do. They feel confident. They know that they can take care of whatever comes their way. Usually it's somebody that's we've had a lot of clients that are actually sensitive, and when we finally tell them, look, you're going to have to live the rest of your life like this. It's not going to go away. It's not a disease. You're sensitive. Ghosts are going to come around. So you need to control it. And it doesn't matter what the religion is.
Yeah.
So they really, we're pretty educated and know our stuff when it comes to religion, and we try to do what we can.
Yeah. And we always try to work within the client's religious beliefs because that is what holds power to them. So it's just a matter of adapting to their belief and giving them the tools they need with whatever their religious icons or whatever you want to call it are.
Sure.
So it's interchangeable to any belief system.
Absolutely. So it sounds like the end game is basically the same. It's just kind of the method to make the client feel a little bit more comfortable during the process.
And
Absolutely.
give them something they can be proactive.
So, obviously, what you guys do is a very kind of conscientious. It's a very controversial issue. So, basically, how do you, with the general populace, tell people, hey, you do have something going on?
Well, sorry.
No, and how do you tell people, so hey, you have something going on, and you have an issue, and here's how we're going to cleanse it? How do you get awareness out to people that there's an actual issue?
Well, if they contact us, they already know there's an issue. We just basically go in, we try to find a logical reason for the activity. And if we cannot find one, then we try to find a spiritual reason.
When they come to you, do they use the word ghost, or they just say, hey, I don't know what's going on, or do they use the word spirit? How would they typically come to you, do you think?
They really come, they use haunted, or we have a questionnaire that they'll answer, and on there is, do you feel like you have an attachment? And it's a yes or no question, and then they have to add details, Most of the time it's, I think I'm haunted, or I think there's a spirit following me, That's usually that. Spirit following me is pretty much the most that we get. That's usually what people will say.
What is your perspective on, all the people that I hang with, if they don't believe in spirits or ghosts, they're at least open to it. But I know a lot of people that, I would say, and you let me know what you think, I think the majority of the population still does not believe or is not aware. Why do you think that might be? I mean, particularly as we have all this technology turning on now, and we have all this evidence, some of which you guys sent us, which we'll send a link out to here pretty quick. Why do you think the general populace still is like, oh, ghosts,
Because they haven't had the experience.
Yeah, I think I think it's how people are brought up, how you're raised, and then as you get older, you start having your own views and your own belief system, and your own ways of thinking. And I think it's good that everybody be skeptical. I'm skeptic. Sarah's skeptic. You have to have that part of you. But I don't know. I kind of see it as there's a lot of people now, it seems, that are really open to the paranormal. When before it was very taboo. It was extremely taboo. You didn't talk about this.
Right.
20 years ago, you didn't go hunt for ghosts and put this on TV. This was, you just didn't do that. So I think now it's really a popular thing. People see it on TV and see the TV shows. They see, you can Google ghost hunting, with a zip code, and there's probably 20 or more just in your area, groups out there to help. So I really think that people do believe. Some of them may not want to say they believe, but, and those that don't, I agree with Sarah. I really think that they just haven't had the experience that, come with us sometime.
Well, and also, I would say at least half of our cases, people will tell us, I didn't believe in this stuff until I moved into this house.
Right.
We've even been contacted by people that consider themselves atheists,
right,
to remove entities off of them or possession cases. So it's just, I think it's an experience thing. They just haven't had the experience, so understandable, that they wouldn't believe.
It's understandable that they wouldn't believe. It's just amazing whenever you walk into a place and the first thing they think of is, I feel like I'm going crazy.
Yeah.
I really feel like I have lost my mind. And they are just so absolutely welcoming to us coming in because we believe them. We believe what's going on. And there are certain clients that we get, it's unfortunate, but not everybody is haunted as they say they are.
Right.
There could be other issues there. So we have to figure that out. And, it's a lot of trying to put the pieces together with this person, a lot of interviewing before we go over there. I'm the one that talks with them, just really trying to get a grasp on who they are as a person to make sure that what we're dealing with is safe.
And not psychological.
And not psychological.
I'm sure that's a slippery slope too. You gotta have to be delicate with matters of mental health and things of that nature.
Absolutely.
So, kind of a fun question. I saw the video you sent Ryan, and let me tell you, that was extremely intense. So, what would you say was the most intense or scariest thing you guys have had so far in your career doing this so far?
Well,
yeah, I think we've had a couple of things, but that one specifically was the most intense because it was so out of left field.
It was unexpected.
Yeah, it was something that was very random, and that man wanted to come after me.
So for the listeners at home, we'll post a link, obviously, but could you
I'll
quickly describe kind of what transpired? Because I'm telling you, it's really compelling video.
Well, I was communicating with a male spirit who was very dominant and not letting any of the other spirits talk, but yet he wouldn't give up information. So when that happens, a lot of times is what we do. We call it kind of like poking around to hit a sore spot to kind of get them talking,
That's similar to provoking?
Emotional rise out of them, because if I can pick up on an emotion, I can get information. So I leave Felicia in charge of that because I never know anything about the case we're going on because I don't want to be influenced. So you want to tell them like.
Yeah, as far this specifically, this I'll try to be brief. It was very long. This was only just a brief part of the entire walkthrough that we did, but this was just basically trying to communicate with the spirit. She had already picked up on energy there. There were a few spirits that were there, 1 female, 2 male. The 1 male in this specific video that was affecting Sarah was a very angry man.
Hated women.
He did not like women whatsoever. And at the time, there was only women in the house when we were there. So, our job is to try to kind of peel back layers of an onion, trying to figure out, get to the core of it, try to figure out why you're here, deal with it in compassion to try to help this spirit move on. If he's angry, what are you mad about? Maybe we can walk through the process. It's kind of like counseling. You're counseling a spirit,
All it goes therapy.
Yeah.
So when they come to you, is it more of a slow buildup, or is it usually kind of a flood that we kind of saw?
It really depends on the spirit and how emotional they are. Because if the emotions are intense, I channel. That means I talk as if I'm them. They don't possess me or anything. However, in that one, lost control. But most of the time, I'm like a radio. I'm just repeating what I'm hearing, But when the emotions are strong, that radio comes alive.
Well, it looked like to me, too, it took a pretty serious physical toll on you. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit on kind of the after effects and kind of how that impacts you?
I totally had to change underwear. I was traumatized, to be honest. For at least a good week, I could not close my eyes without reliving that moment. I was very traumatized. I felt very violated. I've never in my 42 years had anything like that happen, ever. So
the reason why it happened so quickly was because he wasn't cooperating with us. He wasn't answering our questions. He was just basically cussing us out, telling us it was none of our business, get the hell out of his house, just all that kind of stuff, and finally, I wanted some real answers. We had heard that he had killed his sister and buried her in the backyard. At the time, I thought it was wife, but
I thought it was wife.
So I asked that question, Mr. Ratliff, did you kill your sister or wife and bury her in the backyard? And then you see what we get.
Yeah, he jumped me. It was like so not expected.
So it seems like to me you hit a nerve.
That was from you
Absolutely.
channeling him.
I absolutely hit a nerve, and it scarred me for life, really.
Yeah, it was like a bomb exploded, and when he took over, I already remember thinking, why am I talking and my body is moving and I'm not doing it? I remember thinking that. And I was so focused on Felicia. I was like, if I get to her, I'm going to hurt her. And I think she was trying to figure out how to take me down without hurting me.
I was just looking around trying to think, okay, if she comes at me or he comes at me, how am I going to handle this? Yeah. So it was very emotional because none of us expected it.
Yeah.
And, he basically violated her body.
Yeah.
And, didn't get permission.
Yeah.
She didn't.
I don't do trans medium stuff, which is letting them use your body. I don't do that. But I knew if I got to her, I could probably pick her up and throw her across the room. I felt so strong.
Wow.
And I just knew to get the focus off of her and throw him off of me. So when you hear me scream, that is me throwing him off of me. It's called the release scream. We get that a lot in possession and spirit detachment cases. You can't help it. You just scream.
So that went from channeling to possession? Is that how we want to phrase that?
Well, I didn't even get a chance to channel him. He just jumped me.
How common?
He jumped me.
How common do you guys see possessions? How does that work?
Oh gosh, possession. Possession is a very, very strong word. Yes, it does happen. It can happen to absolutely anybody. but it's very few and far between. As far as demonic possession, that's very, very few and far between. We really deal with more attachments, where there's a spirit that are attached with people, and they immediately go to thinking, oh my God, there's something inside of me, it's demonic. I've taken pictures, I can see myself in the mirror, it's demonic. When really it could be just an inhuman spirit, and doesn't necessarily mean it's nice, but it is an attachment, and it's not necessarily a possession. We haven't really had a whole lot of possession cases. I don't think,
No, we've had...
I don't think we've had one possession case. Really
not
just
full
attachment.
on.
Yeah.
It would be more of an attachment, and with the attachment, imagine a leech,
Right.
on someone, but that leech can influence their mind and control them at certain points. It doesn't mean the leech is inside the body, but it's able to manipulate the mind.
Would you say a certain group of people might be more susceptible, like people who might be sensitive and don't know it, or things of that nature that draw spirits to them at a more frequent basis?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. I try to, we try to help a lot of people that have abilities, because, once they realize that they are sensitive, the first thing they say is, can you help me? So we try to explain to them, number one, you have to get control of your sensitivities. You have to know how to control everything about it. And, number two is you're like a beacon. You're, spirits, you're the one person that they've been looking for. They have a message. They're going to find somebody that can help them with that.
Yeah.
So they're attracted to sensitives that way, and to help them relay their message, whatever it is.
Yeah. Imagine if you're invisible and you finally find the one person that can see you.
Wow. Yeah.
Do you ladies struggle with them kind of going home with you? Like you notice some paranormal activity, when you go back to your house, or you try to go back to your normal life. I assume that they would latch onto you and try to utilize you as a tool as much as possible.
That's a very good question, because it sure is a thought that we have and we get concerned of. But we're very protected. Before we go in any cases, we do protection rituals on our own privately. We make sure that before we walk into our house that, we say something to not, spirits cannot come in our home. I pretty much guard my house, and I cleanse it and set up boundaries, and only good, loving spirits are welcome in my house that are protective, and nothing negative is welcome here. So I like to think that if anything tries to come in here negative, it's like they're going to bounce right off this invisible wall to them, and they can't get through it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I have had a case where a spirit followed me home, but I also do readings for people where I connect them with their loved ones. So I have a certain policy at my house. And I did have a spirit follow me home one time from a case who wasn't ready to cross over yet. And it was funny because I thought my husband had come into the bathroom. I was showering.
Oh, is this the one in the shower?
And I heard this man's foot.
This ghost has the right idea in my book.
And I hear this man walking around in the bathroom, and I'm like, did my husband come in? He never does that, right? And I turn around in the shower, and there's the spirit from the case I was just on, and I was just so caught off guard, and I was like, excuse me, this is kind of a private moment?
Is he clothed or not clothed?
Is he from The Ghost Gone Wild?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm like, you do know I'm married, right? But we worked it out. Oh, stop it.
I have two questions based on some of the things you mentioned here. So first of all, one of you used the term inhuman spirit or inhuman entity. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Okay. To me, when I say inhuman spirit, it is a spirit that never has been human. So that could fall into pretty much any category. You got your elementals, you've got your what some people refer to as demons,
Rosie O'Donnell,
etc. Do what?
Rosie O'Donnell.
There you go.
I believe she's still alive, Clark.
But then there's also spirits that we've encountered a couple of times on cases where they are human, but they've been, let's see how I put it. It's hard to put into words. they're so negative, and they've been dwelling in this negative energy for so long that their vibration becomes lower, and so they, you can't destroy energy, so it almost alters their energy to where they don't feel human anymore. Wow. It's almost like they've lost a part of themselves that makes them human.
That's
kind
deep.
Creepy.
It's very creepy. We've dealt with cases before. I can remember one case where you could actually feel the energy of the spirit where it's almost confusing and you may feel a little manipulated, but then you realize after hours of trying to figure it out that the spirit is on the verge of becoming inhuman. So you've got the human energy where you're like, oh, we're dealing with the human spirit.
But there's something cold and empty.
Yeah, so you're not sure if it's a different spirit or if it's the same energy from, the good human spirit that we were feeling.
Wow.
So it was like on the verge of becoming very inhuman.
Something else.
Yeah.
It's really...
I've read that the shadow people phenomena is very similar to that, like you're kind of a cross between super interesting.
Yeah.
You mentioned crossing over. So what, in your experience, is crossing over? Crossing over to where? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, when I cross over spirits, to me, they go into the light. I refer to it as heaven. People might refer to it as something else. And basically is, with ghosts, they don't see the light or they wouldn't still be here, So what I do is I do ghost therapy, and I encourage them to release so they can move on and quit being in between realms and go to their rightful place, which would be in the light. And how I do that is by visualizing the light in my mind so they can see it too, so they can find their way. Does that make sense?
It kind of does. And now, is there an opposite? Do they only go to the light, or is there another place to go as well?
I have had to return things to other places where people have summoned things and didn't send them back home. So I call it the underworld, where I send certain entities that are not from the light back home. Because I believe there's a balance. And if you don't need to destroy something, then, hold the balance the best you can,
Well, I'm sure too, with the popularity of a lot of the mainstream now is accepted the paranormal investigation, and I'm sure there's probably an issue with a lot of people kind of doing it at home, ad hoc, doing EVP sessions or playing with a Ouija board or whatever the case may be. How dangerous is that? I've read and I've heard that you can invite something in your home, half-heartedly, but you feel like when you turn the voice recorder off, that it can it's like turning an Xbox off, like it's over. But I've read that you can invite things that you're not necessarily trying to bring in, but you can bring in some darker energy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're trying to communicate with something that you really don't know anything about, and therefore, if you don't know anything about it, it could be good or bad. And we get a lot of cases where they've dabbled in the dark arts with seances or witchcraft, or they've played with Ouija boards. That's the main one, is Ouija board. And if you don't do it correctly, even if you do it correctly, I don't like Ouija boards, so I have a different view on it. But it's a tool. You're opening a gateway for anything to come in. You can't control what comes in. You can't say, okay, I only want to talk to good spirits, because bad spirits are very manipulating. They can make you think that they're good, just so they can come in and torment you.
Although,
who the hell approved?
Go
ahead.
What was that?
I said, who the hell approved selling the Ouija board at Kmart for $19.99 for during the 90s?
I think
a bad idea.
I think Milton Bradley actually is the manufacturer. Could be Parker Brothers, but it's made by a game board company. But I read that the older ones were homemade and different.
Oh.
Yeah, the older ones were homemade. I used to make my own, and you could make it with a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be an actual board. So you can make it any way you want. It's however you're using it, it's still a tool. Good spirits want to communicate. So if you're allowing that, they're going to use whatever you're using it for. And bad spirits as well. They want to take over.
I think that, you know, just with any tool, if you have the experience and you know how to use it properly, you're going to be fine. But for people who don't know what they're doing and just think it's a game or it's fun, that's where it gets dangerous.
So it sounds like to me that you guys kind of deal with a lot of intelligent, I'll use the word haunting, but intelligent paranormal. What's the mix between residual and intelligent? I've read that, you know, there's residual hauntings that are just like kind of almost like slideshows that are on a loop that kind of come back and forth, and then obviously you have the intelligent energy that can, you know, intellectually interact with you. What's the mix between there? Like, how often do you see one or the other?
We can both touch on that. I think we deal with more intelligent hauntings because we're able to communicate with a lot of them, and they can communicate back, you know, and which is just phenomenal. You know, it's an amazing thing to be able to connect with another spirit, and they have something to say. There's a reason why they're there. So, you know, we deal with a lot of the intelligent hauntings. We also deal with residual.
Yeah, I was going to say, as far as residual, it is, like you said, it's like it's being played back. You know, once the energy builds, it releases and it plays. It builds back up, releases and plays. But as a medium, I've had one situation where I disrupted that loop and actually found that there was an intelligent spirit that was just trapped in a cycle.
Wow.
Just reliving. And by disrupting it, I was able to cross them over.
Wow, that is interesting.
Part of our job is to help the spirits.
Yeah.
You know, so if there's a spirit that is it's a residual haunting, and they're going on autoplay 24/7, doing the same thing they did, whether it's, you know, walking around the house like they used to, or repeating their death. You know, they need help. So our job is to try to pull that energy to us, to connect with them, and do our best to show them the light and send them home so they can rest and be at peace and be with their loved ones and you know, and move on, because nobody deserves to be doing that over and over and over again. You know,
for eternity.
Yeah,
I think mine would just be like eating pizza rolls and watching the Ricky Lake show.
That's
well, maybe
different.
you got the beer.
Yeah, it's not really that scary. It's just really depressing.
Yeah, my luck is when I pass over that, I'm going to meet a really douchey medium, you know, and he's not going to help me out at all, you know. It's kind of like I'm in the line at the DMV, you know, he's just going to kind of ignore me.
He like wants to fight you the entire time.
And that's when I'll turn into a poltergeist and start throwing his shit.
There you go, stacking shit everywhere. That's it.
What? So, and I read on your Facebook, you guys. First of all, if you're listening to this, hi mom. You need to check out these ladies' Facebook. Go ahead and give them a like.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, most definitely. But there's some really neat stories. I guess you guys, as you work your cases, you kind of post what happened there. Facebook.com/Texas Ghost and Spirit Intervention, I believe.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that right?
it.
Yeah. So everybody in the chat room right now, please go give them a like if you haven't already, and if you're listening to this, please do that. I was reading through some of these stories though, and you mentioned talk of different dimensions or realms, and I'm very curious about this, about your thoughts on this. I've heard this, you know, in things I've read or seen. I'm interested in your thoughts. What is this? How does this work? What is a different dimension?
Okay, well, let me just say I'm not an expert, but I'm going to base this on my personal experience as a medium and clairvoyant. Okay? So as far as dimensions, to me, I feel, if you're looking at a horizontal line, I feel there's levels going up and there's levels going down. And to me, those are the dimensions. And the higher up the level, the closer to, I'm going to refer to it as the mind of God. And the lower down, obviously, you know, the further away from the mind of God. I'm trying to, it's so hard to put this into words.
Is it more of a feeling to you?
The color, you know?
Yeah.
So when I am communicating with spirits, I'm scanning these levels, like almost like a radio scanning frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, those are the dimensions. Does that make sense?
Just the different levels that they operate on, basically.
Yes.
Well, kind of a follow up to that. When you say you see them, do you see the frequency? Do you feel the presence, or like how does that kind of work? I'm very interested in that. Like, does it vary from time to time, or how do you guys see them?
Well, I don't really see it as much as I feel it, and it's almost like a raise in my vibration and a lowering of my vibration, depending where I'm going. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Absolutely.
What? Because I'm not sure how to explain that.
and there are multiple dimensions, right? Is that
yeah,
how you would describe it?
To me, there are layers. So, yes, I couldn't tell you how many layers there are, but I feel the different layers.
Based on what level or layer dimension they're currently in, does that change things about how they interact, or is it just kind of all the same? It's just different frequency to pick up on.
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
I know
it's hard, right?
Yeah. Depending on does the dimension that they're operating in, does that change things? Does that change how they can affect things on our end? Is there any distinction in the different dimension or level they're operating on, or is it just kind of all the same? Just a different. You have to talk to them a little bit differently.
Well, it's, Why don't you give them the example of the case that we were on that you actually did scan and you found when you found that entity?
Yeah.
She did a scanning. We were at a case in where were we? I can't remember. Anyway, we were at a case. We had so many. They all kind of run together after a while. But she was, we were really trying to find this entity or a spirit, whatever was there, and we could feel something there, but it was very faint. The energy was extremely faint. But when we would leave, they would experience stuff like flying off the shelves and glasses breaking and being choked, but nothing when we're there, of course, which happens a lot. So anyway, Sarah had found, she started scanning the levels.
And I always start with going up higher, because when I connect people with their loved ones that has crossed over, then they're obviously on a higher vibration. But then I got to a point where I was like, I wonder if I can drop levels. And as soon as I dropped a level lower than what I'm used to being on, I could see the spirit plain as day.
Wow.
So the lower the level or vibration?
It was just flying under my radar, because I've never really scanned the lower frequencies, because never had to, really.
So do the lower levels or vibrations, do those actually mean more, I don't want to use the word evil.
Benevolent, malevolent. Yeah.
Yes.
Benevolent intent? Is that normally how it goes?
Yeah, and they're very delusional, and they tend to be suffering. They lose a sense of themselves, really. And anytime you have a haunting and people talk about getting sick, it's because they're encountering a spirit that's a lower vibration. Our bodies are not used to vibrating on that level, so it will physically make you ill. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it's so hard to explain.
Like different vibrations, we know that different vibrations or sounds, which are really just vibrations anyways, affect the body, the mind, and theoretically the spirit in different ways anyways, so it makes perfect sense that lower vibration or certain vibration of spirits would have the same effect.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and so most of our listeners probably, when they think of paranormal, or they think of communicating with some kind of spirit or energy, they probably think of like the Paranormal Activity movies and kind of what pop culture puts out there. Obviously, in that movie, the Uber Demons is kicking everyone's ass. It's basically Ghost Rambo. But how often do they get physical? Is it have you encountered an apparition or energy level that other than obviously making you feel strange vibration wise, can they get physical?
Absolutely, yeah. They can, if they have enough energy that they've stored up. They can definitely, if they're good or bad or what it is, whatever they are, if they want to get your attention, they'll get your attention. If they're going to pull your hair, I had my hair pulled at the Stanley Hotel when we were just doing this little mock investigation, and we weren't there to do an investigation. It was just me and a bunch of friends, and it wasn't really an investigation. I shouldn't say that. We were taking pictures. We were going in places we shouldn't have been. And we went into this one area. Live Sci-Fi was there and allowed us to go in, and before they started doing their airing of their investigation. So we went down this little cave area, and it was a cave. It was underground, and we started going in there, and I started getting the creeps really quickly, and every hair was standing up. And before I went to turn around to look for my friend, because I didn't hear her behind me, and I thought, oh great, I'm in here by myself. As I was turning around, something pulled the hair underneath. I have a lot of hair, and it literally went underneath my hair and pulled my hair underneath my hair, right at my head. Just pulled me back. I remember my head just going back, and at first I thought it was my friend, and then I remembered, wait a minute, it's just me. And that's whenever I said, okay, don't touch me again. I get the point. I'm leaving. So that's when I left. And so it was trying to get my attention, whether it was good or bad. I don't know. I didn't take time to figure it out. I just knew that it pulled my hair. It wasn't nice.
Well, and another question I had kind of follow up on that is a personal anecdote for me. There's some strange things happen at the house I live in, and it's been going on for quite a while. And I always noticed it around the same time at night. It's around 3 a.m. And I've heard all the pop culture stuff about that's the witching hour or whatever they call it. But can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because for me, I'm super interested in it. Obviously, I'm a believer because I'm experiencing things at the house, and I'm not really sure what they are, to be honest with you. But can you kind of elaborate on that?
Well, I don't know why that happens, but it is a pattern. I mean, we've noticed it too. And, they say it has to do with the location of the moon and, that kind of thing. And just it has to do with a lot of things, I guess. But I don't really know why in between 3 and 3:30 is really the witching hour. And, I'm not really sure why that happens. I don't really have an answer for you for that, but I have noticed it with I've witnessed it with myself, and I've noticed it with other clients that have contacted us. Everything always usually happens at night, but the biggest part of it starts always around 3 o'clock, 3 to 3:30.
See, I never have any. I don't think anything's happening at my house, but I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning all the time, kind of uneasy, and I go right back to sleep because I'm a lazy bastard. But this is weird because now you say that, I do wake up at 3 o'clock all the time feeling kind of weird.
And there's been a lot of weird things for me resulting around 3 a.m. I'll share a few things that are happening at the house that have happened in the past. My brother moved in with me for a short period of time, and I had an empty bedroom. And my brother's a big, tough guy. He's a biker, tattooed up. The guy would barely even go in my house unless there was other people there because he said doors were slamming and all types of stuff. And I wrote it off as like he's just messing with me. Well, one day, and this didn't happen at 3 a.m., but one day I'm asleep and I'm taking a nap before work. And I noticed that my door handle was jiggling, like somebody was trying to get into my bedroom. So I jumped up, and I grabbed like a weapon because I knew I was the only one home. I opened the door, and there was nothing there, right? So immediately I walked the perimeter of the house, but then I went back and checked my phone, and I'd missed my alarm to go to work. So whatever it was literally, I think, waking me up so I wouldn't be late for work. At least that's how I perceived it, And it's just interesting. That stuff is so interesting to me because, like, it's clearly a benevolent thing,
Yeah.
And maybe the reason he was slamming doors is because my brother was kind of a douche, So I love him to death, but
Well, and a lot of times, a lot of hauntings, a lot of them really are loved ones. For your case, it could have been a loved one or somebody that you knew that had passed on, being like, "Dude, get up."
I certainly hope they can't see everything.
Let's see. God, there's just so many questions. We could talk to you guys for hours. I know.
We could talk for hours.
Yeah, this is so freaking interesting to me just because, you guys take it to a new level. Like you see the stuff on TV and you see a lot of things, TV shows and people are walking around with EMF detectors and doing EVPs and everything. But, you guys make contact and you're really providing a service for both the client and the entity. And that's really unique. The service you guys provide is extremely unique. So I think it's really cool. You guys are doing good work.
Well, thank you so much, and that's our intention. Our services are completely free, and we're just there to help. And we learn as we go too. There's nobody. If anybody tells you that they are experts on the paranormal, that they know everything there is to know, that's not true. Nobody can be an expert on the paranormal, even if you are sensitive. So everybody learns as you go, and you know, we teach as we go, and
Sure.
all we're here for is just to help people, because we've been haunted, we've had attachments, we know how it feels. And you know, if you have an investigation and someone goes and does an all-nighter there at your house, and you know, you just feel like they didn't help at all, maybe they made it a little worse, you know, give us a ring, you know, contact us on Facebook or go to our website, texasghostandspirit.com, and you know, you can, right now we're having some problems with our forms, but my email is on there, so you can always email me, and you know, I will email right back. But that's what we're here for. We're here to help.
Awesome.
You ladies got time for one more question?
Sure.
This is the one I've been dying to ask. Do you guys allow guests or visitors to kind of join to be? I mean, I'm sure you want to make sure that they're cool, but do you allow that? Because it seems so super interesting to me. Something that, you know, I could see people wanting to kind of come along if that was approved. You know.
Well, you know, it's a little tricky because a lot of the stuff. I mean, you saw the video. You
Sure.
know, it can be very, very intense, and you have to be on your up and up. So, you know, it depends on what kind of case that we've got. We may take somebody, but you know, we're not really in the, you know, in to take anybody on just to come and check it out. You know, it's too dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, Bill, would you want one of those things following you home?
Absolutely, because it can happen.
Yeah.
It can happen. You'd be surprised, and we would just feel horrible if we brought somebody on that wasn't protected. I mean, you have to protect yourself, you know, and we brought somebody on with us to a case, and they came home and called me later and said, "Holy shit, I have a ghost in my house."
It's here now.
You're just gonna have to make sure that you record all of these and post them that way. That, you know, we'll link them to our website, because I can't, you know, that one little snippet I saw was so interesting. I can't wait to see more of your content.
We'll put that up on our Facebook, our website as well. And once again, you should be liking these ladies' Facebook page anyways, so we're gonna put links there. A couple real quick questions, then we'll leave you alone here. Lauren Travis in the chat room asks, basically, are some of these spirits asking for help from you? Do they need you to perform like a certain task for them? Do they need something from you for closure? Has that ever happened?
Yes. I have been asked for help. And we actually had something really cool happen a while back, where I had this female spirit show up to my house and give me 2 pages of information. Okay, I got her name, what she wanted to happen. She wanted to be in contact with her son because her daughter couldn't handle it, and all this stuff. And then a few days later, Felicia called me and said, "Oh, I have a friend who thinks their house is haunted, and I hope you don't mind. I told the spirit to come see you."
Oh, wow.
By the way. I'm like, "Gee, thanks for letting me know." So I give her this information. She goes, "Oh my God, that's the spirit." So the interesting thing about it is that her friend's house, they found 2 boxes of family photos and birth announcements and stuff like that up in the attic that got left behind.
Wow.
And this woman's spirit came to me, gave me information, and then Felicia and Sherry looked up and found her son. We met with him, gave him the boxes of photos and stuff, and gave him messages from his mother.
Oh my God, it was the most amazing experience I think I've ever had in this field.
I mean, he cried, we cried, and the important thing that she said the most was, "This is the sign that someone's been waiting for." And he said, "You know, ever since my mom died, however many years ago it was, he's like, I've always asked her for a sign, like flickering a light or something." And I said, "Well, she did something much bigger. She reached out to strangers to make sure you got these photos."
Wow.
Oh, very cool.
I mean, so yeah, they do.
And she was not letting up.
No, she was very persistent.
It was actually our friends that just bought this house that was previously her house, and they contacted me about it. And when we went over there, you know, there was a reason. We were actually over there to begin with at a little party, and they brought down everything. They said, "Oh, we have these boxes of anonymous photos. We don't know who they are. The owner left them here." We tried to contact him, and I guess he doesn't want them. So, of course, we started going through all this because they're experiencing paranormal. So we started going through this whole box of pictures, and And we narrowed it down to the one who was in the most pictures, and it was this lady. And that's where it all kind of started. Sarah did absolutely amazing. And then we found the son, met the son at a Starbucks, gave him the box of stuff. She gave him the message that his mom wanted him to have.
2 pages of information from his mom.
Wow.
It was
Beautiful.
amazing. So yeah, spirits, they come to us for help too. You know, it's very important. And she was very relentless. She was not going to stop haunting these boys until she got something done.
Yeah.
Wow.
She was a sweet spirit, so she wasn't doing anything mean. She was.
Yeah.
They were just uncomfortable with the idea of a ghost.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, well, hey, I tell you what. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a very fascinating conversation. I'd love to come up with 18 more pages of questions and have you back on if you'd like.
Oh, we
that'd
would
be
love
great.
to.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Check these ladies out, TexasGhostandSpirit.com, Facebook.com/Texas Ghost and Spirit Intervention. I've put the video that they have, put it in the chat room. We're also going to put it on our Facebook, our website, and I encourage.
Yes, thanks for that.
Yeah, check it out. Follow these ladies. Really neat stuff they're doing. I guess these are questions we ask everybody who's a guest here on Everybody Has a Podcast. 3 quick questions. You can just give me a yes or no. All right, pretty sure I know the answer to one. Number 1, do you believe in ghosts?
Yeah.
Yes.
Number 2, do you believe in aliens?
Well, okay. I've never encountered one, but I believe in the possibility.
Same here.
Okay. Number 3, do you believe in Bigfoot?
I believe in the possibility, but I've never seen one. How's that?
I love that answer.
Everyone, we always get a no on the Bigfoot. Always.
Yeah, I'm going to go with her answer. I'm not really sure.
All right. Well, hey, Sarah and Felicia, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
you.
Y'all have a good
great
night.
evening.
All right, bye-bye.